Hey, bro. It's October 19th. It's a Thursday, 2023. And it's like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock p.m. I just recorded like a little short saying, like, pretty much if you're fasting, a little advice for if you're fasting or if you're planning to fast. And I wanted to do like a little bit of a longer video in case you wanted an explanation on it. Just a little bit better, more clear and concise, so you know the why of why you're like preparing the meal. Because in the video I gave the advice of if you're preparing for an fast, or if you're going to do a fast, prepare for it by making the meal that you're going to eat or having it set up before you actually end your fast and before you start your fast. So have the meal that you're going to break your fast with set before you even start the fast. Now, I know that seems like a lot of work and it might not seem like very worth it, but just hear me out. When you break your fast, it is very, well, starting off, when you start your fast, you get very primal urges, as Hamza puts it, and you don't want to be breaking it with, you don't want to be starving yourself and then breaking it with like carbs or breaking it with like candy or chips or like a little snack before you start your food. Because as soon as you smell food and as soon as you know that you're about to eat and you start cooking, your natural response is to become hungry, and your appetite will come through because you're focusing on the smell of the food and you're focusing on all of this stuff, right? And you're ready to eat. So naturally, you're going to want to go grab that banana. You're going to go grab the quick things that's beside you that you know taste good, all right? And to avoid this, what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the cooking step. So that way you won't have to use your willpower and rely on restraint and discipline to get you through the cooking process. Because depending on what you're cooking, it could take a while, right? All right. And the reason you don't want to eat like carbs or something else before you break your fast or to break your fast is because it will overstress your body, and you've been holding out for this long to kind of flush the carbs out of your system. You've been holding out this long so that way you can get that focus and you can get that feel, that boost in your productivity. Well, now if you eat the carbs, then you're going to be oversaturating your system. You're going to be there's two hormones. One's called ghrelin and the other's called insulin. Maybe you've heard of them. You probably have. But when you fast, your insulin levels and your ghrelin levels come to a balance, a much lower balance than what they usually are when you eat. When you eat, the insulin levels go up, right? And the ghrelin levels for controlling your hunger go down. Different foods have different impacts on the amount of ghrelin and the amount of insulin that you have, and is the balance. Carbs, they saturate they boost your insulin really high, and then they don't fulfill your ghrelin, so you stay hungry, right? But this insulin is what keeps the fat. It's what, it's like your metabolic process. Okay, it boosts your, how much food your body is like kind of absorbing from what you're eating. Okay, and it absorbs like the fat retaining process. So if you break your fast, when your ghrelin levels are really high and you're really hungry, but your insulin levels are extremely low, like really, really low, to the point where your body's about to start giving up fat and start, using your fat for energy, which is called a state of ketosis, by the way. That's what the keto diet is all about. But whenever you get to that state, and then, another reason that is why keto diets have such low levels of carbs, and they can't eat many levels of carbs. I think it's like more than 50 grams of carbs. It varies from individual to individual, but that's a general rule. Okay. But you have to keep that balance in check. And if you don't, and you go ahead and eat the carbs to break your fast, you'll end up just shortcutting all of that work you just did, or not shortcutting it, but short fusing it, and pretty much having absolutely no reason of doing it in the first place. Because you'll add the fat back, you'll rebound is what they call it, and this is why starvation diets and all this stuff is really bad, because it doesn't fix your habits and it doesn't fix your food tendencies. So when you do go back to eating, you'll likely just indulge more and more, and then you'll use you starving yourself as an escape and a rationale. Now, this may sound a little bit complicated. It may sound like it's getting jargon up. Just know, the reason you do not want to break your diet or break your fast with carbs or with any like a little snack or anything, and you want to use protein, is because protein will awaken your system. It'll spike your insulin a little bit, but not to the degree that a carb will. I mean, you often wonder why the carbs taste so good and why you want them. It's because of the giant insulin spike. It's because it gives you dopamine and it makes you feel good and everything of that nature. But it doesn't satisfy your ghrelin. So if your ghrelin's really low, or your ghrelin's really high, and you're hungry. No, ghrelin, it's filling you up, so I'm sorry. If your ghrelin's really low and you're hungry, and carbs don't fulfill it much, but you get that primal desire to eat, then what can you imagine happening? You're going to overeat. And by the time your actual course comes through and you get your meal, you may already be full. Or you may not want it, and you may continue binging on the other foods. Or maybe you eating will stop you and delay the cooking process, so you end up eating more than you would have wanted to, or more that you would have. Plus, it's all these sugars, it's all these fibers, it's all of the starches and all that that's gotten you this situation where you're probably wanting to fast in the first place, if you're doing it for dietary reasons, or if you're doing it for weight loss and weight reasons, or fitness. Maybe you're an athlete. It'll impair your focus a lot. And if you have those carbs straight away, then guess what you'll be focused on maybe an hour from now? Eating. Because you weren't full. You weren't satiated. Protein, on the other hand, does that. And that's why at the end of a fast, you want to break it with protein. So have that meal set out. Have that meal cooked ahead of time, so that way you don't have to use your willpower to get through this process. And you don't have to I'm sure there'll be a time where you'll need it. And I want you to remember this video and be aware of the process that'll happen to you. And hopefully that'll reinforce you getting it done in the first place. And getting these meals set out, so that way you don't have to restrain and you don't have to use that with willpower. And you can save that willpower for something entirely different. Because willpower, just a real quick tangent, I know you're tired of listening to me, but it is not a muscle. It does not be used and come back. It does not get stronger when it comes back. Okay? Those who have the strongest willpower are those who have to use it little. Those who don't have to use it very much. You can look for multiple examples of that online. I'm not going to sit here and justify it, but just know that little truth. Stay strong, my friend, and good luck on your fast.